The chandelier glowed gold above the Thanksgiving table. Wine glasses clinked. Forks scraped porcelain. My sister-in-law raised her glass with a smirk and said, "Mom and Dad always say you never contribute anything to this family." The whole table laughed. I kept cutting my food into neat little squares. Calm. Silent. They had no idea that for 3 years I had been secretly sending $7,500 every single month to stop the bank from taking their perfect house. $270,000 total. That night, under that fake golden light, I finally decided silence was over. When I spoke, the laughter died, and their perfect little world came crashing down. If you've ever been the quiet one in your family, the invisible fixer who pays for everything while everyone else gets the applause and calls you ungrateful, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you want more stories where the person everyone steps on finally steps back and the family feels every single consequence. Let's dive into how one dinner sentence turned years of silent sacrifice into complete freedom. My name is Elena. I'm 34. For 7 years of marriage, I was the woman everyone called reasonable, calm, easy to work with, easy to step over. I earned more than my husband, I funded most of our lifestyle, and somehow I still ended up treated like a polite guest in my own marriage, especially by his mother, Marina. That night started like so many others. Her apartment smelled of overcooked chicken and lemon cleaner. The table was set too formally, like we were auditioning for her approval. Marina asked her usual questions with those sharp little edges hidden inside polite words. "So, Elena, are bonuses still unpredictable? Must be stressful not knowing how much extra money you really have." Her eyes flicked to my purse like it was a shared family account. I answered calmly, the way I always did. I said my job was stable. I said I was grateful. I said nothing about how my paycheck paid for the car we arrived in, the vacations she bragged about, the medical bill she quietly handed my husband last month. Then she laughed, soft, indulgent, and turned to my husband. "At least her income can help the family when needed. That's what wives are for." Something inside me finally clicked into place. I looked straight at my husband, not her, and said quietly, clearly, "One more word from your mother about my salary and polite conversations end forever." He reached for his water, eyes down. Marina smiled like she had already won. On the drive home, the city lights blurred past the windshield. My husband said nothing for 10 long minutes. Then he exhaled and muttered, "You didn't have to make it awkward." Awkward. Not humiliating, not invasive. Awkward. That word landed like a slap. I watched his knuckles tighten on the steering wheel and realized he would never choose me over her. Not tonight, not ever. The pattern sharpened in my mind. Every joke, every suggestion, every midnight Venmo request that I had quietly paid. It wasn't accidental, it was organized, and I had been the only one pretending not to see it. A week later, the first crack appeared. Over morning coffee, my husband said casually, "Mom is thinking of downsizing. She was wondering if we could help bridge the gap for a few months." The word "we" landed wrong. I asked how much. He paused too long. When he finally named the figure, it was almost exactly my monthly net income. I laughed once, sharp, surprised. "And you agreed to this?" He frowned. I said we'd talk about it. Talking, I had learned, was just the warm-up to consent. That night, I opened my laptop and scrolled through our shared accounts. The small transfers I had ignored before now lined up like evidence. Utilities I didn't use, subscriptions I never approved, gifts labeled miscellaneous. It wasn't one big betrayal, it was dozens of small ones, carefully normalized. And the worst part? He thought I would never check. The humiliation didn't happen in private. Of course it didn't. Marina hosted a birthday lunch the following Sunday. Extended family, neighbors, people who loved applause more than truth. I wore a simple dress and a neutral smile. Midway through dessert, Marina stood and raised her glass. "I just want to thank Elena," she said warmly, eyes shining, "for being such a supportive wife. Some women forget that money isn't theirs alone once they marry." Laughter rippled around the table. My husband smiled. Actually, smiled. My chest went hollow. Not dramatic pain, just clean, surgical emptiness. I was a concept, not a person, a resource being publicly acknowledged. I stood up slowly, lifted my own glass. "To clarity," I said calmly, "because misunderstandings grow when people assume access they were never given." The room froze. Marina's smile slipped. My husband whispered, "Sit down." I didn't. And in that moment, everyone realized I would no longer be quiet. I didn't cry afterward. That surprised me most. At home, I showered, changed, and sat at the edge of the bed while my husband paced, explaining tones, intent, embarrassment, everything except responsibility. His words slid past me like static. I was already somewhere else. Calm doesn't arrive suddenly. It settles when a decision is finally made. I opened my laptop again, not angrily precisely. I listed everything: my income, my contributions, the accounts I funded, the access I had casually granted because trust felt cheaper than paperwork. I read old messages I had once ignored, requests I had answered with silence instead of refusal. Silence, I realized, had been interpreted as permission, so I corrected that. I called my bank the next morning and separated every account. I scheduled meetings, I changed authorizations, I drafted one email, polite, clear, unemotional, outlining boundaries and reimbursement expectations. No accusations, just facts. Revenge doesn't need noise, it needs timing. When my husband finally looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, his voice cracked. "You could have ruined her." I shook my head. No, I gave her a choice. The first call came 3 days later. Marina's voice, too sweet. "Elena, darling, there seems to be a problem with the transfer this month." I let the silence stretch. "There isn't," I said evenly. "The access was temporary. It's been corrected." Her breath caught. "We counted on that money." "I know," I replied evenly. "That's why I sent the email. Future expectations need agreement. Past withdrawals need reconciliation." She laughed, brittle now. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being accurate." The tone changed after that. Not anger, fear. Marina stopped calling me and went straight to my husband. Long voice notes, tears, threats that she would tell everyone I was greedy, that I was tearing the family apart. And for the first time, those words didn't reach me through him because I had already removed myself from the triangle. He came home late one night, eyes red. "She says she'll have to sell the apartment." "That's her decision," I said gently. The gentleness startled him. When the repayment deadline passed, I didn't chase her. I forwarded the documentation to the lawyer I had consulted quietly weeks earlier, not to sue, to formalize. A letter arrived at Marina's door, and suddenly everyone wanted to talk privately. Marina paid, quietly, fully, every single dollar, because the lawyer discovered something she hadn't expected me to notice. Years of family help quietly funneled through my accounts had tax implications she couldn't afford to have exposed. My husband finally sat across from me and really looked at me. His voice cracked. "You could have ruined her." I shook my head. "No, I gave her a choice." I moved out 2 weeks later, peacefully, financially intact, legally clean. Marina lost access. My husband lost the comfort of silence, and I gained something I hadn't had in years: control without cruelty. The repayment hit her account the day before she was supposed to close on the smaller apartment. She called my husband in tears, not the controlled kind she used at dinners, but real, ugly sobs. He looked at me helpless. I simply said she made her choice. He never asked me to fix it again. Marina moved into a smaller place. No more marble, no more gold, no more pretending. My husband watched me pack the last box with something like awe and fear in his eyes. He finally understood. The woman he thought was easy to step over had been carrying the entire house on her back, and when she stood up straight, the house fell. Money doesn't create entitlement, it reveals it. Boundaries don't destroy families, they show you who was never family to begin with. If you've ever been told you're not contributing while secretly keeping everything afloat, hear this. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to draw the line, and you are absolutely allowed to choose yourself. If this story gave you that deep, satisfying exhale of finally, or that fire of recognition, smash the like button and tell me in the comments. Have you ever been the silent supporter in your family? What was your breaking point? We read every single comment. Subscribe for more Reddit revenge stories where the quiet ones finally speak and win. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.